Hey friends, welcome to my live show this Thursday morning here from Tahiti, here from my sanctuary. Super excited to talk to you today about the last stretch, what's going to happen for the last 90 days of the year. And I wanted to give you some ideas, some sort of guiding principles, if you will, few very simple ideas of how to move forward if you're stuck, if you need momentum, especially and so forth and so forth. So this will be a quick sort of 10 to 15-minute blast. So I would love to if you can leave me a comment where you're watching from, and also who you are and what's coming up for you for the last part of the 90 days of the year. So this is very, very exciting for myself as well. I've done a little bit of reset and regrouping, if you will, in the last few days and getting ready for the last part of the year. I think one of the best ideas is to get ready for the next year before the 2022 presents itself. And what I mean by that is a lot of the times, and I had a discussion yesterday with someone about this very idea, that a lot of the times people only get ready for the next year when the time is there, when it's kind of almost too late, if you will. And I always think that I think one of the reasons why those New Year's resolutions, why they fail most of the time, because you have to do them on the spot. You are almost a little bit too late when you start doing it on the 1st of January, if you will. Now, that's why I'm starting early. I'm already starting right now to kind of get ready for it. So the last part of the 2021 is when you can really start building momentum for the next year, as well as finish this year really, really super strong. I think that's a crucial part of the game, if you will. And I know this one, a lot of us, we thought that it's going to be an easier one, the 2021, but it wasn't, was it? So 2020 was a funky one. And I think for most of us, this year has been super funky as well. So who knows what's going to happen next year, but what I do know that we can control the controllables. We can take charge of our own direction and have more influence over the aspects and elements of our lives that are within our reach, if you will. Okay, so thinking too far in the future sometimes gets you a bit stuck because you don't see those steps, obviously. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that it's great to have visions and it's great to have dreams. And I'm a big believer of dreaming big and having these bigger visions for yourself, sort of 3 to 5 years or to end of your life. But especially what's happening right now in the world, it's really hard to predict how things are going to unfold outside of us, outside of our influence, which makes this sort of bigger planning and dreaming and visioning quite hard, if you will, at least in my case. So what I always like to do is to set goals that are more tangible within the sort of 90-day range. Okay. Which takes me to the first principle, if you will, or the first idea for how to get ready for the last part of the 90 days or last part of the year, which is setting 90-day goals. I know goal setting is probably something that you've like, oh, come on, you talk about goals again, but hear me out a little bit. When we talk about goals or goal setting or intentions or dreams and so on and so forth, I like to play this game in the 90-day range. All right. So first you set those dreams and visions, and then from there you extract your 90-day goals. And especially when it comes to end of the year, a lot of people sort of thinking that you lack energy, you lack momentum, you lack focus. But if you play the game in the 90-day range, the sort of 3 month increments, if you will, it really gives you more tangible objectives where to aim. And that's where the sort of motivational sweet spot lies as well. Okay. So what I always encourage is if you feel that like you're in the dump, it's like too far out those dreams and visions, then take something tangible and put something out in the calendar within that 3 months range where the motivation lies. Okay, that works for some. Now, for me personally, I was, to be very honest, a quick personal story. A few days ago, I was like setting these 90-day goals, and I kind of started feeling a little bit like, I didn't have enough energy, if you will, in those goals. So I kind of went big. I went kind of doubled and tripled and sometimes quadrupled some of these last quarter goals, and it really gives me more focus under my belly and into my brain, if you will. And I think it's also a bit of a personal. Some people don't like to overwhelm themselves, but if you are ready for it, and even if you're ready to set bigger goals, even in the short term, then go for it. But make sure that you back up those goals with equal size and equal amount of action, right? All the goals and goal setting is completely irrelevant if you do not back it up with tangible and measurable and high and big enough action. So that's the first part of the puzzle, if you will. So, by the way, if you're watching this live right now with me, just like I mentioned, leave me a comment where you're watching from, and if something comes up during the conversation, and then I will address some of those questions towards the end, which is in about 10 minutes or so. All right. So here we go. The number two thing that will get you ready for the last 90 days of the year and how you can truly win the 2021, the last quarter from those 90-day goals, is you do something called a identity shift. All right. So you start thinking is, who is that person who is going to reach those goals? Who is the person that's going to step on the plate at 2022 within the next 3 months? Like, who do you have to become? And again, you might have heard that question before. And I've, especially if you've been in my sort of ecosystem and, following my content, a lot of the times I talk about this identity shift, and it's really truly a powerful idea of changing kind of internally who you want to become, and thinking in a relation to these goals that I just mentioned, is who is that person who's going to reach those goals within the next 90 days. Now, especially if you set the goals quite far out or quite high, if you will, you obviously know that who you are right now, that person and that personality more than likely is not going to reach those goals. So you have to become a something or someone else, right? And let that sink in for a little bit. You have to become something or someone else to reach those goals. Now, I'm not saying that you have to fake it till you make it, or you have to be someone or inauthentic, if you will, but just bring a different part of you, different personality out onto the play, out onto the field of play, that I always like to say. So that is the identity shift. If this is a hard one, if this is hard to think like, who do I have to become, there's an easier way to go about it that I always like to go about it is, and it's the same thing for me. Whenever I feel that I'm in the dump, whenever I feel that I'm at the bottom of the valley and I just don't have it. For example, yesterday we went for a run and I had, it wasn't pleasant. I felt tired and so on and so forth. And I just asked myself this question: what would Steve Hill do right now? Steve Hill is someone that I just interviewed last week. He's an ultra runner. Someone just goes out, rain or shine, and he goes out and does his thing, and he goes running and runs 9 marathons in 9 days and so on and so forth. So when you sort of look up to a, let's call it a hero of yours, or someone who's a mentor or coach, or someone is kind of that you look up to, and you ask yourself, what would that person do in this situation, right? That, at least to me, it gives me a nice boost, and sort of takes me out of my own story, when I think of what that other person would do, just periodically. And then that gives me enough momentum to get me out of that funk, get me out of that state of stuckness, if you will. And then once I'm moving forward, let's say 5 to 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if it's a run, if it's riding, what have you, then you're starting to come back into yourself, if you will. And then you're starting to sort of develop that different part of you and different identity of who you are. And then again, you reinforce those actions as you're moving forward. They truly reinforce of who you are, and you're starting to build stronger and stronger identity. Your motivational energy builds up, and you also start believing yourself and you're building self-confidence. Okay, so that's the power of identity shift, either internally, or you can look up to someone else and look from the external perspective or external person, your mentor or your coach or what have you, who can then sort of, that person, you visualize that and then you sort of start moving forward. Okay, so that's number two thing of how to move forward with momentum in the last 90 days. The third part of the puzzle is obstacles and not to-do lists, or not to-do list, if you will. So we all know that there's so much to do. There's our to-do list and our calendars are jam-packed full. And a lot of the times we think if the calendar is not full, we are not busy. And if we are not busy, we are not productive. And that couldn't be further from the truth. A lot of the people that I know that are the most productive and the most efficient and creative, they have a lot of white space in their calendar because they're able to say no a lot and only yes to those things and elements that truly matter and move them forward. Okay. So instead of thinking, what do I have to do right now? What if you sort of identify those aspects and elements and to do's, maybe people and spaces and places as well, that you do not have to go, that you don't have to be right now. So identifying the noise from the signal, if you will, is paramount to our success in this today's distracted world. Okay. Well, and that sometimes goes against this sort of positive psychology movement, and we think like only think positive, only think what I have to do. But if you don't identify, if you don't acknowledge and have awareness of the things and elements and ideas that we are not supposed to do, then those distractions, they pull us in quite quickly and quite closely. So I always encourage people to come up with a not to do list of things that are not serving their highest purpose, their goals and dreams and aspirations. And then from there becomes quite easy to stay on track. It becomes easier to stay focused and know exactly where you're going. So identifying obstacles, identifying not to do lists is a key element also, especially in this last quarter of the year, because there's the holidays are coming up from Christmas time, and there's a lot of distractions that are still pulling our attention from online spaces, social media spaces, even live streams like this. For some of you, this might be a distraction. I hope for a lot of you are taking some nuggets out of it, and you are able to implement one or two ideas at the very least. All right. Now, the last idea, the last element, or the principle, if you will, number 4 of how to gain momentum, stay focused, and win the last 90 days of the year is, again, something very practical, is your how-to habits. So if you start coming down from the goals, you starting to make that identity shift, then you define what you don't have to do or what you're not supposed to do, what are those obstacles. It becomes quite easy to clarify and to be clear what are the habits that truly serve your highest self and your purpose and your goals right now. But a lot of people, we start from here. A lot of people start from the step number 4 and it's like, okay, what do I have to do? Instead of defining like, what do I actually want? Who do I have to become? And also, what are the obstacles that are in front of me? But once you do those first 3 parts, this last part becomes very, very obvious. It becomes a lot easier to identify, what do I have to do right now, right? So I highly encourage to do those first 3 parts first. Talk to someone, find someone who can sort of ask those questions from you, ask the right questions, if you will, and then like, okay, where do I have to go? What are the things that I have to do? What is the how to? And when it comes to how to, obviously extremely powerful idea is to develop habits, because then those habits turn into automatic actions that you don't really have to think about that much. So if it's sending proposals, if it's doing videos, if it's something that you want to do daily to better your relationship, your self-talk, How do you, that you want to go running or go to the gym or get better health, what have you. All of these goals and aspirations and outcomes, underneath of them lies great habits. Again, not the first person that's going to tell you they develop great habits, but a lot of people, we what we do is we develop these habits and we don't really know why we're doing them. Okay, we don't really know why we setting those habits, and what are the sort of underlying reasons for them. And that's a different aspect. Maybe I'll do a different video from that, or different podcast episode of the purpose and the why underneath. But I'm just going to give you a little quick invitation that when you're going through these 4 steps, if you will, or you have this self inquiry and you're thinking deeper within, ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I building these habits? What is the underlying why? What is the deeper purpose underneath of all that? And the first couple questions more than likely will be somewhat superficial. But if you have this inquiry, if you have this self awareness and curiosity to dive a little bit deeper in, you are going to find deeper reasons and more powerful reasons and more empowering reasons of why you're doing what you're doing and why you want to get where you want to go. I think that ultimately gives you so much more momentum and so much more energy underneath of your pursuit towards your goals, if you will. So that's kind of, not to go too far off the beaten path on this one, but developing habits is a great idea. But from there, it's always good to, on these sort of transition moments like today being the last day of September and tomorrow is in October, it's good to kind of recheck on yourself, recheck on those goals, recheck out, like give you a little bit of a yeah, recheck exactly to see where you're going and exactly why you're going where you're going. Okay, so those are my kind of 4 quick tips of how to win the last part of the year on 2021. So just really quickly, I'm going to flash them up. The very first thing is to set 90-day goals. Set powerful, empowering, clear 90-day goals. From there, you can start thinking of who is the person that I need to become in order to reach those goals, defining your obstacles and your not to-do lists. Okay. And then from there, starting to come up with how to habits of how to reach your goals. All right, guys. So that's pretty much a quick wrap of how to win the last part of the 2021. If that's an interesting one for you, um, leave me a little quick comment of what's your takeaway. Where do you struggle the most? What's most important for you during this last part of the 2021? And I would love to help you to sort of go through these ideas and insights. If you need any further sort of assistance, if you will, or support, I'm always available to jump on a quick call and maybe bounce around some ideas and see if the track that you're taking or you're on right now is the one that is yours. Always remember, as my mentor told me, that when you're setting your goals, make sure those goals are your goals, that you're not chasing somebody else's dreams, somebody else's aspirations, and somebody else's outcomes. Okay. So that's why have fun with the self inquiry. And as always, please reach out, get some support, and get out of that isolation that a lot of us we might be in. Okay. So there we have it. Hopefully that was a good one. Hopefully it's an interesting one for you. And I look forward to seeing you all here on LinkedIn or either Facebook, YouTube, or Clubhouse platform. All right. Ciao for now.